Yeah. You gotta work. You gotta work, grind, shine, it's mine. Gotta show everybody it's my time. Getting here, you gotta work, grind, shine. Never mind who talking down, cause they lying. Don't talk, you gotta work.
Let the conversation begin. This is Let's Talk with your host, Carl Lee.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Carl Lee, and I want to let everybody know already that normally when I have a guest on the show, they come in, they try to figure out, what the role is, what they're going to do, and all that kind of stuff. And I have posted how special of a guest that I have on today, which is Coach Bob Pruett. And literally since he has come in the door, he has talked, he has talked about me as drastic as he could. So the conversation today, I'm telling you, is going to be, I'd like to think that it would be something that I could lead, but I can promise you that I will not be able to outdo my host here today or my guest, Coach Bob Pruett, and of course my Hollis Lewis as my co-host is here. Coach Pruett, tell us a little bit about, give me an introduction, if you don't mind, if you give me an introduction about your good stuff. Some of your I got to be careful with this guy because he is going to control the whole show once we get started anyway.
There you go.
He's going to control it. I'm asking you now to give us some of your some of the things that you have accomplished and all that kind of stuff. So our fans, not that they don't know, but I want, just in case if somebody doesn't know, I want them to know.
That's not my name, and I don't understand the question. All kidding aside, Carl is a great, great athlete that I had the privilege of coaching way back in 1980. In 81 and 82, I think, was the 3 years I coached him.
Yeah.
And he was an outstanding athlete that really, he did more to really turn Marshall around because we were going through the last winning team that Marshall had was the last one I played on, and it was 1964. And from 1964 until Stan Parrish had a winning season, they never had a winning season, and they were the losingest football program in America.
Wow.
And came in and gave us a bright light. He did more recruiting to do the things to sell our program and to believe in what was going on there. And his senior year, we had it turned. And he graduated, and I left and went to Wake Forest. And then the next year, and then that Sonny had I think a 5-7 season, but had it almost turned. He had it turned, and they choose to go another direction. And Stan Parrish came in and stayed 2 years.
Let me ask you something about that, because I've always been really curious, and you may or may not know why that happened, but why did they just make that decision to once Sonny had got us to that space, why did they choose to let him go?
Well, this is what I think. I think they decided to keep him. And this is what I was told. And Sonny, before he left town while he was on the road going to wherever he was recruiting, something happened that, you know how Sonny was. He was an explosive guy. And Sonny did a lot of great things at Marshall University. He showed us what we needed to do and how we needed to do it and those type things to be a big time and be able to compete. Now, he did a lot of those things, but he was an explosive guy, too.
To say the least.
And I think he called back in and was complaining about why they didn't do this and why they didn't do that. And I think that irritated the linebacker, so he just pulled the trigger. I mean, the athletic director, and he pulled the trigger because of it. If he had kept on driving, his phone hadn't worked, he'd probably been there. But, hey, listen. We all say some things at times that we wish we could have back. And there's times we don't say some things we wish we'd talk. So
that's true. Very true.
So you leave, and at once you left, did you ever foresee yourself coming back? Was it a thing that you thought that you would want to do, or was that part of your plan?
Well, I came to Marshall to be the assistant. I was the last assistant hired, and I was the defensive line coach the first year. Then the next year I moved when Bruce Johnson left and moved up to be he was a coordinator. I became the secondary coach and called the defenses the 3 years I was there. And I realized that nothing because what was going on. The reason I came back to Marshall is I wanted to be, when I graduated from Marshall University, walked across the stage in 1965, my dream was, I got married when I was a first semester freshman, had 2 boys when I graduated, and graduated in 4 years and lettered in 3 sports and never went to summer school. But and when I graduated, my dream was I walked across the stage is I had a diploma in one hand. My wife had 2 little boys there with me, Rod and Stephen, and a degree in a hand and a contract with the Dallas Cowboys in my back pocket. And my dream was to come back at Marshall and be the head football coach. So my point in coming back to be assistant coach here, I took a $10,000 pay cut to come back here and coach, making $17,000 a year. You know, I was making $27,000. I was the head high school coach and a principal at a high school, big school in Virginia, Garfield High School.
Yeah, everybody knows about that.
Yeah, and so that was my dream. I'm one of the few people who got to live their dream. Now, I figured out, and I think that everybody sometime has to figure out what they got to do to get where they need to go and want to go. And I was looking at what's going on. Even though I wanted to be there, I knew I had to leave to come back. I had an opportunity. Al Groh, who was an assistant coach at Virginia and North Carolina when I was coach, that recruited me, left the New York Giants, you know, to be the head coach. No. Well, he left. He became the head coach at Wake Forest, and he offered me the secondary job there. Matter of fact, I had to send him a film of the VMI game your senior year because he wanted to see how I coached him. He liked me. We'd spent time together. He looked at the film, and he knew I was a good high school coach, and I think he thought I was a good teacher, but he wanted to see our guys play. And I picked the VMI game because you played a great game in that game. If you remember it. Huh?
Got you the job.
Well,
I ought to get some of the pay.
Listen,
or some of the retirement or something.
Listen, it was really the 2 corners that got me the job. We had a pretty good secondary that year.
We really did.
Yeah.
You know, and I'll make the case, you know, the similarities, Hollis, to playing at Marshall and playing at State. Like, I believe, like, the situation at Marshall, there was everybody was in the mindset of we want to win. Like, we want to somebody at some point we have to get to a space. Now, with that being said, I remember a whole host of people, you know, in the community, you know, business owners that were talking about, you know, killing the program. I remember that all the way through my career, of someone saying, you know, we you know, maybe not, they're not good enough, it's not worth it, and that kind of thing. But I could never imagine that actually happening. You know, but I think the difference at Marshall was everybody was on board trying to get there. Who would be the coach that would get us there? And that may not have been known. Where I think when I went to State, I don't think there was any mindset of the football program going anywhere. I don't think that they care. Would you agree with that, Hollis?
Yeah, definitely. It was definitely it was irrelevant kind of at that point.
Because I mean, there was less there was less money at Marshall than there was in the basketball program and some of the other programs. It was a struggle, and I remember you calling and asking me to come and be, on your staff when you came back, which was a huge, like, everything about that I would have loved, to be with you and played for you for 3 years, having just the fun part of what you bring to the coaching and what you do and how you do it. I would have loved it, but there was something else about, to your point about wanting to be back at Marshall. Once I had gotten to State and I had met these guys, like I couldn't leave for the benefit of myself and leave these guys when I'm here trying to, I'm making them run. I'm as close to Sonny as you could probably be. And I'm trying to get them straight. I'm trying to get them to do the schoolwork. I'm trying to do all that. And I'm like thinking, and now I'm just going to jump ship and go and enjoy the opportunity at Marshall and act like I couldn't do it, and even though we didn't turn it, I can't say that I was the guy who got it turned, and I was there for 10 years, but it took fundraising and me getting money and guys like Sterling Sharp coming to practice in spring ball and all that kind of stuff, buying uniforms for us, all that kind of stuff, just to survive.
So to that point, Coach, what was the state of the program when you took over Marshall?
Can I ask a question first?
Yes, sir.
What's irrelevant mean? No big words here, guys. I know some big words. Mayonnaise, refrigerator, always red wagon. But no big words. Just keep it. I'm the old coach here now. No big words.
No, I got you, Coach.
Okay, now.
And he is known for that, Coach.
Well, I know.
So what was the state of the program when you took over in 96, 95?
At
Marshall, yes, sir.
Oh, it was great. Coach Donnan left me good players. I had good players. I mean, we played you one year. I mean,
yes.
I talked to Carl, and he said, I said, well, he needed some money. I said, okay. I said, let's play then. I told you, I said, I won't bruise you.
Right. And you did?
No.
Well, somebody broke their neck. Chris Brandon.
Well, yeah.
Well, I didn't do it.
Yeah, we did lose Chris, but
we lost Chris.
But I don't think that was, that was just the
freak accident.
Freak accident
of
the game.
I remember very few plays, but I remember the wheel route out of the backfield where y'all scored a touchdown, long touchdown. We had a backup kid in there that didn't take it. So, but I mean, you remember the pass play you scored on in the game?
Well,
you didn't score that much. You ought to remember. You only scored once.
You don't have to add that piece to it, okay?
You can't even remember that one.
And again, I don't even remember necessarily how much money it was, but for us as a program, I mean, it was huge because we needed money from anywhere. And then I knew that it was a trusted kind of a situation to put us into that situation as far as State goes to play, and knowing that I know the coach on the other side and trust him because I played for him personally. And there's a reality of, to me, when you know a coach, like playing for a coach there's a whole lot of respect there. Yeah. But when you know a coach, when you know who he is, he knows who you are. There's something different, and similar to what I would like to think that I have with some of the players that I have. I think Coach has built that same kind of, and appreciates that same kind of enjoyment of knowing how players feel about you. Mm-hmm. do you have, and you don't have to use their names, but do you have guys that don't particularly care for you now because for some odd reason they didn't play, you didn't let them play?
Wow.
I'm sure that's the case. I mean, we 9 years and 125 a year. There's going to be someone unhappy, but I think we got a lot of happy players too. I told them when I recruited them that you come with me, I'm yours. You're mine forever. I mean, when football's not over, I'm not done with you. If you'll remember, I brought you down to Wake Forest.
Yep.
Because I called him, and he was having a lot of success. I called him. I said, I need you to come down, spend a few days with me down here. He come down and stayed with us. And I talked to him. I said, football's going to end, and we got to start talking about what you're going to do after football.
Yeah.
I said, you're very articulate. At this time, there was a premium for articulate, handsome black men.
You sure handsome was in there. That was one of the words. Okay?
Well, both of you fit that. You carry yourself well. And I said, you need to think. I said, coaching. I said you could be a great coach. You got a great experience. And we talked about it. And I think that that was 4 great days for me. I remember how many days it was you stayed at our home. But I was concerned, because when we had the athletes at Marshall, I didn't care who their agent was. I wanted the best for them and don't want anything back other than, just respect, which they do. Is I want the best for you.
Yeah.
But I want you to understand we set up a committee where they could talk to their agents, and we had a lawyer there, and we had someone from the business area that would an accountant and people. We set up a committee, and they could bring their people and watch. And I had the younger guys watch it. And of course, Randy was the first big name we had, and first one that I had, and he did, and he chose his own. He was very, as people know, Randy is really smart guy. He's really, he's a good guy at heart. He does a lot of good things for people.
And he does not want anybody to, because he'll do it behind somebody's back. He'll do something and won't anybody ever know.
He's a good guy, and he's a smart guy, and you can see that on TV every day. Mm-hmm. But he's a great player. He's a great player. And I'll tell you about his jersey. And so all we wanted him to do was to hear it and see it and make sure that whoever was before them or whoever it was, and of course he had a couple people advising him at the time, but our guys, so they had someone that wasn't trying to get anything, that at least asked the right questions and gave them a heads up. Then they went and selected who they wanted. And that way, all our guys, to the best of my knowledge, the guys that have left Marshall University and went on to the NFL have taken really good care of their money, have all had good agents. See, at Florida, we had some guys get swindled out of $6 or $7, $8 million.
Yeah.
It was bad. And all I want is for them to be happy and go play and have a great career. And fortunately, we had some guys while they was there. Randy's one of them, and Chad's one of them, Byron's one of them. John Wade, when we come in there, he's the best center I've ever been around. He couldn't even get on the field. And they had 3 centers get hurt. He played
before
14.
he could play.
No, he didn't get to play. We put him at center, and he's reaching a 3 technique. Sometimes it's just when they click with your guy.
Right.
Yeah.
And you give everybody a chance. Now, I had some guys that first spring that were all American and were really good players, and went on. They want to know why they got a little upset because they had to go through spring practice. I said, everybody's got to go through spring practice. I said, how do our kids feel like they're getting a chance? Everybody's going to get an opportunity. But the biggest thing you got to do, you got to learn a new system. And watching. you know, and you're earning a system. And now you're going to teach the younger players.
So Hollis and I, we've had multiple fights about transfers, especially in the high school realm. You know, where do you sit on the high school transfers from your own personal standpoint, and where would you be now if you were?
Well, probably more appropriate to college, the whole transfer portal thing.
But I'm curious of the high school because he's coached high school as well.
Gotcha.
So I was going to say, give me the high school because college is different, and then you can gravitate into the college transfer portal as well.
Well, first of all, let me just hedge it a little bit. When I came to Marshall in '96. I had some transfers that came in with me, guys that I had a relationship. I had a relationship with Randy. He came. Gerald Long, I'd recruited him, and he came. Eric Kresser. and Eric Kresser came in here. He had started 3 games at Florida while I was there, and the quarterback that was starting won the Heisman Trophy. You know? Yeah. Of course, the one that he come up and played in front of was a Heisman Trophy finalist, but Eric Kresser played 4 years for the Bengals. But at that time, the transfer rule in college, and then I'll get back to the high school, is you could transfer down from the Division I school and be eligible immediately.
Right.
Okay. For Randy, that was his best move. He had already been redshirted at Florida State. If they hadn't redshirted him at Florida State, Florida, where I was a secondary coach, would have probably not been in the national championship game because we'd have lost to Florida State because when we played and beat them, I played bump and run on their 2 receivers, but neither one of my guys could have covered him.
Right.
No, they couldn't cover him. I mean, our offense was, when we flanked him out, they had one guy, we just checked and threw him the ball. Scored 55 touchdowns.
Yes, I remember those years.
I mean, you know, and then when they put 2 out there, we're 10 on 9. I think we averaged about 35 points a game for 9 years. But anyhow, so I had those things. Then again, I got Chad Pennington, who had played as a true freshman, and because they had lost 3 quarterbacks, was a starting quarterback at Marshall the last 9 ball games and took them to the finals and they lost to Montana.
Yeah.
You know, in the national championship game at Marshall. Okay. Well, I come in and he goes through spring ball and he's Cole Pennington right now. After he gets through, after I redshirted him. That's what he was. You know, in other words, he just wasn't big and strong enough. Mind was tremendous. Everything. Accuracy was really good, but we had to get him bigger and stronger because we're going to Division I football. We're going to open up against West Virginia. He got hit 31 times in the ball game. In that ball game because we lost our left tackle and had a JC tackle at right tackle, and that was, you know what I mean? We couldn't double all of them, you know. But so we had to get bigger and stronger and stuff like that. So the transfer helped me. The transfer rule at that time in college, you could transfer and get aid, but you had to sit out a year if the school released you. If the school didn't release you, you could transfer, but you had to pay your own way.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, the
but Marshall would be.
Well, I let 2 kids transfer, Alundis Gary and Jermaine Wiggins, who were great players, went on and played in the NFL. Jermaine, a tight end, and Alundis Gary, well, to be honest, they recruited him at Georgia, and the president wasn't going to release him. And so, I released them. They can't pay their way. But they really wanted to go to Georgia. They really wanted to go to Georgia. They came in and said, we'll stay, but, and all this stuff. And I said, boys, y'all, y'all go on. I released them.
I remember that.
I called the president, said we need to release them. That's what they want to be. We had the telephone where they had recruited them and all that stuff. But hey, listen, guys, and Carl will tell you, they were good players and they would have made us better. But we also had some good players behind them.
Yeah.
It gave me the freedom of doing it and to let them win their wish. I mean, I lose to London Scary. He played for Denver, led the league 1 year in Russia. Yeah, Wiggins played 11 years up there. He didn't block anybody the whole time, but he caught a lot of balls.
So, and we'll go back to the high school after this break, but I'm curious. So, the way the transfer is now, are you for that, or would you prefer to have to go back to something similar to what it used to be at least on the college level?
Well, I'm not for it. I think it's a wild, wild west right now because once you give somebody something, you can't take it away. The courts won't let you.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Now, they got Mansion and Tuberville, two sports-minded people. Tuberville's, I know him real well. They're going to supposedly make a rule to govern it or to pull the reins in. But that's a tough deal. And the problem with the transfer is now the teams that grow their team and keep their team, Georgia and Alabama, who I think are probably, and Michigan, they're, I think, the three best, and then it's a toss-up with the rest, Washington or somebody. But Alabama has 6 seniors. Georgia doesn't have many seniors. But now, of Alabama's 6 seniors, they'll have some that leave to go on to the NFL. Mm-hmm. But they restock in recruiting. When you bring in the thing that I think that really made us the difference is we had good players and coaches, but we bonded together. The young ones taught the older guys taught the young ones, and we took a lot of kids we took chances on and grew them into being good players, and they understood our system and they understood what was right, and they not made a mistake every now and then, but they believed in what we were doing. If you bring 40 players in a year out of the portal, which some people do, or 20.
That's crazy to me.
Well, that's what they're doing. You don't have, when things are going good, it's like in cars, Dylan. Things are going bad, they feel like you owe them something. This is just my opinion. I don't know this to be a fact. Right. We're privileged to be here and to produce what you said you're going to do. They don't believe in your system. They don't believe in their coaches. They haven't been with them long enough. You have to, you coached, you played. You have to bond with your players, and they have to believe and trust you if you really want, you know what I mean? Well, look at Saban. I mean, he has to go, about to go in overtime with South Florida, loses to Texas, benches his quarterback, but coached them. Now they're in the national championship, and that's the worst thing that ever happened to Michigan. Well, I mean, that'll be a great ball game.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's you done got a war daddy that's been there. Yeah. Those boys are going up there, and that quarterback, they brought him along. But Saban had a new offensive coordinator and a new defensive coordinator this year. It took time to bond it, but he held it together. Somebody's got to be the glue.
The glue, yeah.
Somebody has to be the glue. Well, whoever's the glue, you have to trust the glue for it'll hold.
True. Great words from Coach Bob Pruett. We'll be right back. This is Let's Talk with Carl Lee. We'll be back in just a second.
Contact Carl Lee on email. Let's talk carllee@gmail.com or text 409-422-7539.
You're listening to Let's Talk with Carl Lee. Sponsorship opportunities are available. Email letstalk@promessage.com or call 304-342-8131. For more information, visit WCHSnetwork.com/Let's Talk. Now, back to the conversation.
So, Hollis, I'm curious. we talked about Coach Pruett just elaborated it on transfers on the college level. Basically says he's not for it, but also understands the reality of the growth that it takes for a team to build a culture and all of those kind of things. We have fought back and forth on this subject. Hearing him say it now, because clearly you would have never paid no attention to me, but hearing Coach say it now, tell me as you listen to that, how do you think it?
I think Coach Pruett, what he said was he's for it, but he's not. It has to be regulated. It has to be confined. It can't be the wild, wild west.
Right.
So, I'm for it. I think to the point that what we're seeing now is that when you look at those programs, as Coach Pruett mentioned, like the Michigans, the Alabama, Georgia, a lot of those guys are homegrown. So, again, just because you get the transfer, that doesn't mean you're going to win anything. But I think the opportunities should still be allotted to those players.
My challenge to you, though, is, okay, so if I'm the player, okay, so if I, like it never dawned on me to leave Marshall.
Yeah.
It just no matter how many games we would have won or lost, it never would have dawned on me, because I had coaches who I believed in me enough to have me on the field and give me some pats on the back and those kind of things. See, I buy into that, and maybe again that's an old school kind of feel, but I'm curious. To me, when I hear Alabama, Michigan, those type of names and being homegrown, I'm like thinking to myself, I want to be part of something like that.
Yeah, but those are far and few between. So I don't think.
But they're the top.
They're the top. But not everybody can do that. But I'll say this too. Again, what Coach Pruett said earlier too is that, again, I think they're at the top is because those programs are a little bit patient too. Right.
Well, yeah, because you bring in a freshman. You bring in a freshman, and if let's just say he's not ready to play yet, right? Mm-hmm. You gotta nurture him all the way through to the point of because he might think that he could play. Like I know when I came into Marshall, man, I was like thinking I'm going to play. I'm just thinking I'm going to play. If I'm sitting for 3 games.
Well, no, I don't mean the players being patient necessarily. I mean like the fan base, the administration being patient. When we think about Joe Paterno at Penn State, he had 9 losing seasons before he was able to turn that program around. So I think coaches are feeling that too. So coaches are like, hey, let's just bring these transfers in. Let's get them. Let's try to win now instead of having that homegrown sentiment where we can build slowly but surely and get to the top of the ranks.
That's their reason to go out and get.
I think everybody's impatient. The whole system is impatient.
Well, here's a point. The guy at Georgia wants to be at Georgia. The guy at Alabama wants to be at Alabama.
Right.
I wanted to be at Marshall. I had many opportunities, and a lot of opportunities would make a lot more money. That was my dream job. That's one thing. But the thing of it is, they're better stocked. They'll lose some guys to the portal, but the one of their wide receivers was from Georgia. You know what I mean? But he was not, for whatever reason, he left Georgia to go there. Maybe he was behind better receivers or whatever. I can see guys leaving, you know what I mean? But I respect Carl a whole lot. I love him. But nobody ever offered you $1 million. Leave.
Thank you, Coach Pruett. Thank you.
No, they did not. They did not.
In other words, you're a type of talent that they would come and offer you a lot of money. And I don't care what you say. When you sat down and started bargaining with the Minnesota Vikings, money was an issue.
It was.
Yeah, it was. Now, somebody comes in, when I walked across there, I had no money. I was there. We had maybe $200 a month to make it on.
Yep.
I had 2 little boys. It was just, but Doug Chapman, who I love, I looked at him. I said, Doug, He played a great player for me and went on and played in the NFL. I said, Doug, when you was at Marshall, as much as we've done for you, he's player development there. Then he's now took another job. But I said, if somebody offered you $250,000, would you have left? He said, yeah.
Thank you. That's the thing.
Well, I'll be honest. I mean, you could have offered me $500, I might have left, you know. I mean, because it's just money was just a whole different.
Well, that's a different thing. That's the picture.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You know, that's a
makes
picture.
difference.
That's a picture. Now, a lot of guys jump into portal because either their coach they're got rubbed wrong by the coach, or they're playing behind somebody, or they're really good and they think they can take this money. Well, the point guard at Marshall last year.
Yeah, the basketball player. Yeah,
not the point guard, but the off guard.
Yeah,
Taylor. He got $400,000 to go to Mississippi State. He's averaging 4 points a game and about 8 minutes a game. He's got $400,000. Now, if he's smart and takes that $400,000 and puts it in an interest-bearing checking account at 4 or 5% on compound interest, that'll turn into that $400,000 will earn him $1,500 a month, and then he'll earn a little more than that the next month and the next month. That's real money. That's life-changing money.
Yeah.
Now, I don't like any of it because I think you have a hard time building your team like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you was restricted on how many you could bring in or something like that, see, they don't keep track of the money. There's nobody. That's a wild, wild west.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's no rules, and I don't grudge them getting their money and stuff like that. But I'm just saying, it is hard to win a championship and see the people that bring them in. Who's in that championship? Now, they might get one player. If their quarterback goes down, they got $2 million to go get another one. Florida come and took our about top basketball player and gave him a bunch of money. He was freshman of the year in conference, Sun Belt Conference last year. First game for Florida, he scored 24 points, had 14 rebounds, and they beat one of these big teams. I mean, he's 7 foot. Grew 7 inches his last year in high school. Wow. You know, he shoots a three. He's a great player. Now, Marshall basketball loses their 2 best players who they got back, and they want to know how come they're out here. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%.
They're having a 2 and 4. Well, their basketball team's not here. That's the downside for our level. The first 2 years that Huff was here, we lost 6 players a year to go to Power 5 teams that started on bowl teams. And then Coach Huff still managed to win 9 games. I think that's pretty special to lose. You see what I'm saying there?
Yeah.
But
And I think that's part of the transfer portal that people just don't talk about. Well, they don't talk about the raping of what happens to the smaller schools.
Well, it happens to the bigger schools.
Or the result of that, how that impacts the change of a coach. A coach who's did something, started climbing, and then all of a sudden,
all his players are
gone the next year because everybody's like, look at Marshall. They got this guy. They got this guy. Let's go get them.
When you talk about 2 elite basketball players, that's your team right
Absolutely.
there. You're done.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, you talk about me redshirting Chad Pennington. I redshirted him. He loves Marshall, everything about it. But, somebody to come, here's a starting quarterback. Got him to a championship game. They thought I was crazy. But I was doing it for the kid.
Right.
It's going to make him. Now, we took the battle all the way through the fall of that first ball game in '96.
Yeah.
But I knew Chad, if we redshirt him, we got a great quarterback for 3 years, and his career would go further. If his career ended in 1998, do you think he'd have been a Heisman Trophy finalist?
Maybe not.
Probably,
and just
probably not.
And just to note, that year that you talking about, you redshirted Chad Pennington. Y'all went 15-0 and won the NCAA the NC Division I AA championship.
Yeah.
Okay, so it worked out.
Our first 4 years at Marshall, we were 50-4.
Yeah, I'm looking.
And
at
we
it.
lost the 4 games we lost was ahead in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and that's similar to WVU that first year when y'all went to the
that was the first one we lost. We lost our opener.
How was that jump going from Division I AA to the Division I football?
Well, West Virginia had a good football team that year. They had a lot of good players. I mean,
y'all should have beaten
Zeraway. I mean, the lineman Steele was there. I mean, quarterback played 14 years in the league. Was the quarterback there in that game? Zeraway was a tailback. I mean, to go
that's
up
a name
there,
I haven't heard in a while.
It's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they
Famous
had good.
Amos.
I think there was on that field that day, counting what we had, there was 21 NFL players playing in that game.
Yeah,
counting both teams.
Yeah, I remember that game.
Yeah. And they blocked the punt. They brought over my personal protector. A guy didn't, and they blocked the punt for a score. And Zeraway broke a long run for a score, and they earned a score. We're down 27-10 at halftime.
Yep.
But we came back, and with 12 minutes to go, we got the ball in the lead.
Yep.
We had lost our tackles, and we couldn't double. They kept moving Steels around, and they really had other good players there. They had I forget their names, but they had a defensive tackle went to them, played in the league, and they had a corner, played in the league, and had a receiver. Their quarterback he played 11 or 12 years. Bolger, I think.
Bolger. Mark Bolger.
Yeah.
Yeah, he played a long time.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
So-
everybody was questioning him.
So, Coach, now put your high school coaching hat on and talk to us about where you see high school transfers. What and you gave a legitimate reason why collegiate should. It's hard not to transfer when you got money, an offer for money to go somewhere. I totally get that. So Hollis thinks he has a point up on that one. So
I do, because Coach said it.
So tell me a little bit about how you see and if it's reasonable, or what justification would you have for high school kids being able to just pretty much go wherever they want?
Well, I think that certain schools, you can, I'll say a school like Cabell Midland, they build their team.
Yeah.
Right.
They build their team.
That goes back to your point, even college, right?
He's one of my guys.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'd say, I don't know this for sure, and I don't want to get called on, but I think Martinsburg probably gets a pretty good bunch of transfers even before. This is what some people are telling me.
Yeah.
Before this rule, they're a team that plays for the state, extremely well coached.
Mm-hmm.
Always have been, really well coached.
Yeah.
But when you bring a guy in and you put him ahead of somebody that's been with you, you got a problem. You got a team problem.
Yeah.
In other words, the kids work real hard and it's his turn, and all of a sudden, maybe it's not Randy Moss, but it's somebody that's, to that kid, it's a Randy Moss. There's a lot more ability. Makes your athletic you have on the field better, but it doesn't necessarily, it's how your team chemistry goes. And when you get down to the nitty gritty, what you have to do as a coach, if you have to understand the rules of the game that you're playing, whatever it is. These are our rules. You have to understand it. But manage those rules to build your team. You go in and bring, I don't know, it was one of the schools down in one of the counties here had about 16 or 17 transfers.
Yeah.
And, well, yeah, he probably had more athletes, but did he win a championship? I don't know.
No, he did not.
But see, your objective is when West Virginia didn't play me and wouldn't play me, and I wanted to play them, and I think they should play Marshall.
Ditto
Because,
to that. Yeah, I agree with that.
because the state needs it.
Yes.
Both of them need a rivalry, and all the money stays here.
100%.
And
Was that fear from WVU as much about the potential of, oh my gosh, what if Marshall would beat us?
Oh yeah, I mean we had 3 games scheduled after '97. They canceled.
Yeah, because it was close.
Yeah,
I mean, they should have. Marshall should have won that game away.
And, you know what I'm saying is, we didn't give it away, but it was they had some boy dogs over, and they get off the porch and hunt. But what I'm saying is, the chemistry on your team when it comes down to really when it's tough, do they suck it up and do what they got to do, or they give in to do they give in to it? You know, do they start arguing or they start bickering? And hey, I had great success and all that, but I had, Carl knows this. I learned in my living room about, I was telling Coach Huff, I said, I don't understand. I said, I can only remember 2 ball games. Well, I don't understand why we lost, because we weren't us. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was the Fort Worth Bowl and Bowling Green in 1998. We were 12-1, beat 6 teams and beat them. But I knew when we walked out on the field, in warm-ups, there's something wrong. Walking around, darting around. And Carl was sitting in the room, Coach Huss was sitting in the room, and another player was sitting in. He said, I'll tell you what happened. 22 of them, 30, and swam in that heated swimming pool down there that went outside. We had them in a nice restroom. We checked back check. We didn't think they'd get up at 4:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Thought we had better leadership. But they were dead. Plus the attitude of going into any ball game to think you can get up at 4:30 in the morning and swim all day, you're not respecting your opponent. Usually when you have a failure to perform that's abnormal from what you got, there's something happened, whether it's internal strife, something like that, or something's happened. We lost the ball game up at Ohio U. The only time I think we lost up there, I was there. I come in after warm-up, and 2 of our guys are fighting over a girl or a card game or something. Well, it disrupted us, and we went out there and just played. I mean, it is hard to win a football game. I don't care where you are.
Yes.
And you have to have everything going right for you, and then everything has. They believe in your system. They believe in you. They believe in their teammates. They put all that together. If you have a division there, it shows up when you're playing a championship level team, or you're in the 4th quarter and that team came to play.
See, and I think some of the
It's hard
teams
to build that.
Yeah, and Hollis, you and I had talked about it, I think even off air, about like the teams who had 14, 15, 17 transfers. Part of that issue is, and you said it, Coach, like, so I transfer in, Hollis transfers in, you transfer in, so we're all at this school and we're playing a game for total different reasons, because I'm not playing the game specifically for
that school,
for that school
community,
or that community or anything. And all of a sudden, Hollis does something wrong. I don't necessarily, I got issues with him. I'm feeling a certain kind of way because he did something, and then I do something. You feeling like, why those 2 guys, they ain't show up today. And what happens to me in that situation is it is hard to build a team with personalities that you're bringing in from other places who've been coached from different types of people, and believe that the reason that you brought me here is, 1, I'm a star, I'm going to start, I'm going to be the guy, and then there's 13 other kids coming in thinking the exact same thing, and you can't build a chemistry there, can you? Is there a way to build a Hollis?
It's hard. It's hard, and I think from the high school level, we've seen that this year. As far as some of the teams we're mentioning that had a bunch of transfer, they really didn't go anywhere. Talking to playoffs, you've seen it with like Deion Sanders in Colorado. He brought 20 plus transfers in, basically built a whole new team, and they just went on the downslide these last several weeks.
I will say this about Deion Sanders. Mm-hmm. Colorado was awful.
Yeah.
You say they went down. He
brought him up.
He brought him up.
I mean, really. I mean, they couldn't whip butter. I mean, he got the national spotlight. He got all the kids. I mean, he did a lot of things. Now, he brought in a bunch, and he was truthful with them, and I think he's hard on them. And I think that to bring that program up and be that competitive on a national level, and when he lost, it was maybe one blowout or two.
Yeah.
The rest of them were ball games. Okay.
Yeah.
Now he did say, "Get me now," because it's
he did say that.
Yeah.
Prime did
say that. So it's
that.
hard to come in and take a whole team like that. It's like you cutting your whole team in the NFL thinking you got a chance to win a championship the next year. No, you got to have some gray hair in that locker room, to give you the leadership.
Yeah.
So I think now I said understand the rules of the game you're playing. The rules are now, they're here, and they're not going to change yet.
Mm-hmm.
So now you got to look on your team and find out what you don't have. Now take that thing. So I think that Georgia, Ohio State, and all those people, they're very selective with a transfer that they bring in. They're not going to bring in a bunch of them.
And
they take care of a need that they have to have.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so
that makes sense.
So if the transfer, even let's go to high school, if you're not just taking a bunch of athletes, or a guy that you think is going to be, really a D1 lineman or that kind of stuff, like you're not just taking them because you want to have a better team or any of that. You should be taking, if you've got a decent line and that you think that you can live in, leave them there. And then bring in that position that you need. If you don't need a quarterback, don't bring in a quarterback, and now all of a sudden, now you got a quarterback issue.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's harder to do that at the high school level because the coach doesn't necessarily control who's coming and who's not, per se. As far as his astuteness concerned, they can come to that school.
Now come on now. Now
I'm just saying
they know who's coming because they know who they're recruiting.
Yeah,
they know who they're recruiting.
But I'm saying at a collegiate level, you can pinpoint.
Yes.
Like I need this, I need that.
Let me tell you what. Now in college football today, the recruiting is high school, but they have all these. The guys that sat up there that have been coaching and can't find a job, and they're analysts. Mm-hmm. Well, they are scouting every player. I mean, if this West Virginia conference, they got an outstanding player in that conference, I don't know how they would keep them right now.
Because somebody's calling them.
Yeah. Somebody's calling them because they're looking at.
They had a kid from Fairmont, to North Carolina.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's a huge loss
to that school.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like our guy going to Florida.
Yeah.
Only worse.
Yeah.
No, but I'm saying I have watched the state conference football. It's good football.
Yes, it is.
And they're well coached.
Yes, it is.
They're well coached, and I've watched them from when Carl was there to the guy at state that's there. I used to go down and help him a little bit, and I watched Concord play, and I watched some teams. I'll come and watch some games. It's good football. There's some good football players, Now, to me, the thing is find a good player from the state of West Virginia that now I can bring in, because I think if I have one thing that I would think that maybe we could do better, and I hesitate to say this, but I'd like to see more kids from the state of West Virginia playing at Marshall. You know what I mean? In West Virginia,
100%.
You know what I'm saying?
100%.
When we in '99 we had 45
from the state of West Virginia.
Yeah,
And
I recruited the state of West Virginia.
you was 13-0 in '99.
Yeah.
13 Motor City Bowl. You're number 10 in the nation, I believe, too, right?
Yeah.
There you go.
9 in one poll.
Yeah.
You know. So I mean, but listen to this. Now listen to this. At Marshall and Sunbelt. At Marshall, you have to be a friend raiser, you have to be a fundraiser, you have to be a psychologist, you got to be a recruiter, and you got to be an outstanding football coach.
You said friend. You said friend raiser.
Yes, sir. yeah. I mean,
friend raiser.
You got to have friends, and you got to get friends to come to the game.
I like that.
Yeah, you got to do it all, and it's all one big package, you know. And you know, listen, you were poor, but in comparison to Marshall, when you were there, with Sonny and them, or when I was there, in comparison with the money they got at WVU, I mean, if we'd have went out to buy a player, we'd have had to put them on layaway.
We'll pay you in 3 years.
We'll pay you
in increments.
Here's $1 down. Yeah. But what I'm saying is, you have to do all that because what you have when you have in-state guys and you start winning, you got them. An in-state guy's got to go out in the community and defend the program and what's going on.
But have we already hurt ourselves to in-state recruiting? Because I know like state and all the D2 schools, like players that are good, not great necessarily, but good. If state or somebody offers them, they're like, I'm not going there. And like I'm thinking to myself, like, how are you passing that up? That's good football.
Yeah.
You know,
it is.
And you don't know if you're Marshall eligible. You don't know if you're WVU eligible or
they're offering you a walk-on.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know?
I guess my thing is I think players in the state of West Virginia, I'm not sure that we understand how good our football is in the state and with
right now.
Yes, really and good. With and with Marshall and WVU included.
I think it's just not publicized. 'Cause, I mean, you look the last few years, you know, Shepherd, their national runner-ups, they're in the playoffs. UC hosted 2 playoff games this year as far as, you know, Division II football. You know, Concord was in the mix, you know. So it's very, very good football. It's just, you know, like Coach Pruett said, you got a friend raise. You know, you got to let the community know about that, and it's not just on the administrative or the school. It's on all the players and all the fans. You know?
But even I think though, even if you let them know, you know, I'd make the case that I think, you know, state, and I think, you know, for a fact UC, I think they're getting their name out there. I just don't think that young athletes see it or view it as like somewhere really.
I think once we start getting
at the end of the school year, they don't have nowhere to go. They can go to state.
Yeah.
I mean, they walk on, they don't get aid.
Yeah.
You know, but what I'm saying, there are good players in that league.
Yes, sir. Yeah. There is.
And if I was in Marshall, I would look at them. I mean, that's the rule of the game. That's what I like.
Right.
But if you know, you see what I'm talking about? You heard me talk to Coach when he was there at the house. I mean, you know, you got to, you know, football is really, it's a really balanced. They had 6 teams in the Sun Belt. It was 6 and 6 or 8 teams or something like that. You know, I mean, they had 8 bowl eligible teams, but they had a bunch of them 6 and 6. But what I'm saying is they play tough. I mean, fans or something. They look at us and see us beat Virginia Tech and play North Carolina State and then can't make a first down against James Madison.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Well, somebody's banged up, you lose 2 or 3 key players, and you know, all of a sudden, you know, it's a different game because you have to have you got to have a whole bunch of backup players because you're going to get kids banged up, kids that want to play hard. And the thing I like about Georgia, if you watch them, all those young 5-star recruits, they're in the game, and when it means something.
Yeah.
So they might
experience.
They're going to put some guys in the pros, but they got pros in behind them.
Right.
Because Georgia and Alabama have the number 1 recruiting year every year. One of them do. Ohio State might. You know what I mean?
Right.
But the guy at Michigan's built it the right way.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, you know, like him or not.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
and I think it's tough. I think it's tough to try to go in and look at that coach and see what he's doing and try to say, okay, now I'm gonna copy that because I don't know if that's because that's a personality kind of a thing.
That's
too.
what I was getting ready to say.
It matters. You have to have that kind of personality to be able to do that. But we got.
But coach, before we let you go, who's going to win? Who's your pick for the national championship?
Alabama.
Alabama. Okay, you said it
Without any hesitation.
Yeah, you said it.
And you make the case that why would anybody go outside of Alabama? I mean, they and Nick Saban.
We're hoping and dreaming.
Okay.
The SEC don't win.
Look, Alabama's got Michigan. Okay, Texas has to play Washington. Okay, and that's a nail biter. Texas has gotten better, but he's an Alabama protege, the head coach. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They got athletes, but they're just now getting back.
Right.
Alabama's been there.
Can't argue with that.
No, not at all. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to let you know how happy I am that I had a chance to get Coach Bob Pruett on here, my friend, and love him to death. And Hollis was here too. So,
okay. It's Delegate Lewis to you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to wrap it up here. We appreciate it. This is Carl Lee with Let's Talk. Visit us again.
The opinions expressed on this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of WVRC Media, its management, employees, or sponsors. Contact Carl Lee on email, letstalkcarllee@gmail.com, or text 409-422-7539.